everyone. Welcome to Focus Talk. Today, we're glad to invite Mr. Patrick Byrne, founder and former CEO of Overstock.com, as our guest. Mr. Byrne joins our program online. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Jenny Chang. Nice to see you again.
Hi, thank you for coming on to our show. It was a pleasure meeting you at DC. So I'd like to first start by asking you some questions about your China experience. Because when we met in DC, you told me that you have studied at Beijing Normal University, 北京师范大学. So it was
北京师范大学学习中文和中国古代历史和哲学，从孔夫子和老子到毛主席思想。这样 ，so 1983年到1984年，我过了1年。那个中国刚刚开了 ，it was just as China opened up. That's why I'm in a bit of I'm especially sad here to think that China may be behind this, which I think because I've been one of the early. I feel like I've been betrayed by an old friend. Is how I feel. I'm part of a generation in America that we grew up. There was this saying, some journalist once said, what's the difference between when an American and a Russian meets each other and American and Chinese? And the difference is when American and Russian meet each other, we don't love each other. But Americans and Chinese have just culturally, we've always loved each other. I'm Irish. The Irish and the Chinese built the railroads together. And I've just always had, since I was a child, I was taught that we had this sort of brotherhood, Didi, perhaps, brotherhood, with this ancient civilization, and it was kind of going to be our role in the world to try to help China. And it's been I studied Chinese and went there in 83, 84, and a lot of the people, the Americans I knew, it was the first wave. Within a couple of years, they were there with jobs in the World Bank and such, and they took great pride in helping China stand up. They took great pride in bringing our banking systems and our capital systems and our management systems and helping them. It was like to my generation, it was a calling. And all along the way, there were doubters who said this would backfire on us someday. This would backfire on the United States. And I'm sorry that's, anyway, so that's why it's especially heartbreaking, because it seemed like they turned out to be correct. Here, I thought that the United States had really reached out a hand and done a lot for our friends in China, as I was starting to think about them. And it's really worked out badly. And it's been, so I feel brokenhearted in the way one does when someone one loves and admires betrays one. How you feel?
Yeah, as someone who came from China, I when you say you feel betrayed, I can understand that, because Chinese people also feel they were betrayed by the Chinese Communist Party. I definitely feel that there's a special connection between Chinese people and American people, but the ruling party betrayed everybody, betrayed the people and other who are willing to help China. So how long have you stayed in China? And what places?
I stayed there just a little over 1 year. I was a Dartmouth College student, Damusa Daswe, in New Hampshire, and it was a 3-month exchange that turned into a 1 year. I spent just over a year there, and then I went to Thailand and spent another 6 months.
So when we were in DC, you told me that you have studied a lot of philosophies, including Marxism theories. So that's why you saw it when similar things happening in U.S. And yesterday, we certainly saw something happen in U.S. Twitter permanently shut down President Trump's account. Many conservatives' accounts and their contents are also being wiped out at Facebook, YouTube. Google and Apple want to take down the Parler app from their app store unless Parler agrees to censor content just as they do. So today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tweeted that we cannot let them silence 75 million Americans. This isn't the CCP. So I think he makes an excellent point. What's going on here, Patrick? Is America becoming like communist China?
They certainly are trying. They have so you know this horrible thing that happened on Wednesday where Congress got stormed, although there are real questions about there are videos and eyewitness testimonies in the videos which I have seen where people are tracking. It looks like the police escorted some Antifa folks up there in these vans, and they are really the ones who got dressed up as MAGA. And there's some funny looking videos of that event. But all that said, this is all. I think that was part of the psyop. Now, anytime people on that side of the table ever go to demonstrate, there will be what the French call agents provocateurs, people like that in the crowd who will do things like that so as to smear the say patriotic people who are protesting. So of course we finally found a riot that if that's what it was, we found a riot that the mainstream media didn't like, because for 9 months we've been putting up with all these other riots, but we finally found a riot that the mainstream media did not like. So
that gives them that gives them a reason to do this. They can use to justify their action, you're saying.
Yes, what they did the day later, they dropped they exposed a 20,000-page bill that they had apparently written overnight from the Wednesday event to the Thursday event. They exposed a 20,000-page bill that basically imposes in the name of fighting extremism, which is anything that contradicts their socialism, questioning were there irregularities in the 2020 election, I'm sure will count as an act of domestic extremism. So what they're going to try to do is take the FBI and Department of Homeland Security and CIA and just completely unleash them as instruments of oppression against their domestic political opponents, all under the guise of we're fighting domestic extremism. You saw Congress get overrun, things like that. So that's what's going on. That's what they're trying to do. So that's what they're trying to do. I mean, it's really extreme. To me, they're the fascists, of course. They're the fascists. Fascism is a phenomenon of the left. People don't know their history. Fascism comes from a socialist. Well, there was a heavy-duty socialist in Italy who he was the editor of Avanti, the socialist newspaper. Mm-hmm. He went and fought in World War I. He kept the same basic socialist way of doing things, but he added this new nationalistic element. That was Mussolini. He was a socialist. The whole rise of fascism is out of the Italian left. So anyway, that's what the left is trying to do here. They have a bill that they're ready to pass as soon as they get in, that basically imposes a Chinese-style censorship state and unleashes, who can even know? Because it's a 20,000-page bill. It was obviously already, it was already in the can, which also tells you.
This is dreadful.
Yeah, this is dreadful. Yeah, I think this is a Communist Party takeover.
Yeah, because go ahead.
Well, I want to tell you what I was arguing for. So as I've emphasized, just to be careful, I did not vote for Mr. Trump, but I was absolutely appalled by the election irregularities. And I knew something like this was going to happen, or I thought. So I was helping him out. I was investigating to see where, and leading a group of people to see where it all led. There's a lot of signs that this is a color revolution, and it was managed really to the T and executed, going through these 4 stages of demoralization through the COVID stuff, disorientation through the Antifa, burning buildings kind of stuff, and no state response, the crisis of this election, and then this normalization phase, which is now where the media and social media are just trying to wipe out any other memory or opposing point of view. It's quite Orwellian. Hey, did I see that even Twitter outlawed #1984 now? So that tells you all you need. Yeah.
Wow. When you say it's a color revolution, it's interesting you say that, because just a couple of weeks ago I interviewed a Chinese scholar. He said this is a red revolution in America, and behind it there are all these an alliance maybe between the domestic and foreign forces. So right now. Yeah, so right now it seems like they're trying to silence the voice of people who don't agree with them. Do you feel that the American people are facing the danger of losing their freedom, starting with the freedom of speech?
We are indeed facing that danger. Now, we have institutions, and our institutions were built to sustain an attack like this for some time. So, Congress turns over every 2 years. If Congress turns over every 2 years and if some new passion grips the American people, like socialism, they can get Congress. It takes sort of 6 years to get the Senate. The presidency takes 4 or 8 years. The Supreme Court is going to take 10 to 20 years to turn over. So the idea was to provide some ballast, like we were a boat, and we could not be taken by a closing. Our founding fathers studied the Greek democracies, and they discovered that Athens, when you have the crowd run things too easily, you're like a boat that sloshes. So 1 year Athens declared war on Syracuse. 2 years later, they wanted to surrender to Syracuse. So our founding fathers built ballast in the boat, and that's these institutions with these staggered times and such. So it really should take 10 to 20 years to do if they were going to do it, and if the institutions held. But I don't think it's going to take that, because what they're going to do is they're going to find all these emergency powers to accelerate the to try to get stuff done in 2 to 5 years. So we'll have 1 or 2 more voting cycles to try to stop this, but we have to get voter integrity, election integrity restored. Obviously, it's silly, so we have to get that restored.
Just now you mentioned that you still think there is 1 or 2 election cycle. However, people saw what happened in the Georgia Senate runoff. A lot of people don't trust the election result anymore. And there are some people that are saying that I think there's a scholar in the West Coast, Thomas Sowell. He has said something back in summer. He said if Biden is not inaugurated, then he thinks America has passed the point of no return. What do you think? Because we right now both the Senate and the Congress both controlled by Democrat and their left alliance, and if Biden, if he's inaugurated, he's going to be inaugurated on January 20th. Like you said, they probably will just accelerate all the leftism policies, right?
Yes. Just what I was thinking about that Georgia runoff. They did the exact same thing. It's like they're laughing at, they're being goons. They know that what they're doing is obvious. In that Georgia runoff, they did the exact same thing. They got to midnight, they figured out how many votes they needed, and they just dropped themselves 171,000 votes, all going to the Democrats. And that's how they just pulled it off. And we saw the data, the packet traffic actually going to Islamabad and, frankly, to China. Yeah. So while in real time that was happening. So, and we know why they were doing that. So that's that's why the Georgia loss is especially galling, because they just did it again. They're goons. They don't care if people. In fact, they want people to know that they did this and got away with it, I think. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we cannot trust the result of this Senate runoff, how can we trust the result of any future elections? I
would say that somebody who can play a constructive role here is the Supreme Court. They have been missing in action on this. And the Supreme Court is at least going to be able to rule on some of these cases. And they are going to be able to retroactively lay down the law about what can be done and not done and stuff. And they should take that opportunity to firm things up so we can have a clean election in 2 years. I want to have a clean election in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And they could maybe do some steps that do that. And the rest of us at the grassroots level have to be fighting. I feel kind of like the old, it's funny because I did not vote for Mr. Trump or President Trump. That's not why I'm doing this. I can't imagine wanting to live in a democracy not understanding this is the most fundamental process. If we don't get the voting right, everything else is built on quicksand. So we have to get this fixed, and we have to do it in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think this is not only about President Trump anymore. It's about the fate of America. It's about where this country is heading.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
I agree. Well, fortunately, there are institutions here. These guys can come in with these bills and and such. Not sure they're going to all get passed as planned, and there's all kinds of things that that can go to work to slow things down and to protect us. But it's pretty clear to me that they're trying a red revolution here, and nobody's behind it. My recommendation to President Trump, what I was trying to get them to do, was just to rerun the election or just to count the ballots. Just go count the ballots in these 5 counties, these 6 counties, or better yet, in these 6 states. And you could get that done in a week and use the National Guard to do it. So everyone will trust the result. And the law is there that gives you the authority to do this. He could have done this, and he could have done this and had an answer. We could have had an answer by Thanksgiving. We could have had an answer by January 1st. Instead, they were doing it was weird. So even, theoretically, that could still be done. He could still do it and have an answer by this Friday, what the real vote was. And the ballots could be counted online and a live stream, and everyone could follow from home. So it'd be the cleanest count ever. And you could do that. That would end all the violence. Because President Trump said to me in a moment, he said, if I really lost this election, I'll be happy to get on that helicopter January 20. I'll be gone. I'll go play golf. No hard feelings. I'd like to know if it was stolen or not. Or he didn't say he said I didn't. He didn't actually say I would like to know. He said I want to. I don't want to go in when it's been a rigged election, which is all pretty understandable. And I think for America, you could do that still, have an answer by Friday, and we could have an answer by Friday, and that way, we're not fighting about it. We're not in a civil war about it. But in another week, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, do you think he would do anything between now and January 20th?
Well, there is a chance he could always do something like that. He could do that, and it would have an answer by Friday. The answer's been staring us in the face. It's been killing me but they haven't done that. They could do that and have an answer by Friday, and all issues would be settled. That's all I wanted. And that doesn't really provoke an insult to the Constitution. The Constitution, the only date the Constitution says amounts to January 20. So it doesn't insult the Constitution to do that. It's you wouldn't be interfering with that date, but we would have our answer by Friday. And win, lose, or draw, he gets in the helicopter. But otherwise, we're going to have this. This is going to be the grassy knoll theory forever. I mean, no one's ever going to believe. Well, it's an earthquake in American history that they'll never have the answer to.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people say that what the big tech has done to censor people's speech and content, what they have done will just further divide the country. So a lot of people, including a lot of my Chinese audience, they're actually asking the same question. They wonder, are we going to see another civil war in America? What do you think? Because people I think a lot of people are probably not going to accept the outcome, or they're still angry.
Well, there are a lot of people who are angry. I don't counsel violence. I'm against. We don't want it to get violent. And I was disappointed. I know that there are thousands of people thinking that way, and I tell them, really, I'm not. That's not where my head's at. But boy, it's a tough one that we. Well, I'm also hearing there's big parts of the government, the younger people especially, who get this. And that there's large parts of the government who are saying they don't intend to serve under President Biden. Large chunks of the FBI and other agencies that are saying they see through all this. They see what's happening.
You talked about the foreign interference at DC. To what degree do you think CCP has interfered in this election?
I think they have. I think that ultimately this was I think that this was, it was a psyop, a psychological operation, and at least in the background, there's a lot of data that the CCP was there in the background, which is a shame. I always had this dream. I studied it for years of my life. I understand the Han. I understand the civilization and see this glorious wisdom in this civilization that I thought, what a great historical thing would happen if that wisdom of the Han tradition could be married up into the freedom-loving tradition of it. So, for example, I do respect all kinds of aspects of Chinese culture, the family-oriented culture, the respect for parents, the respect for education, discipline, things like this. These are wonderful qualities, and maybe liberalism has lost its edge by getting too flabby that way. So I did see a possibility of a marrying up someday of Chinese culture with American culture and really producing something that would bring perpetual peace to the world. This isn't that. This is an attempt at this is not an act of a friend. And especially I would think, when I was there, people in China knew and were taught how much America did, how we did things in World War II, how we did things. But I understand that since about 1990, a generation of Chinese people have just been taught horrible things about us and aren't aware of this special relationship, and how truth is America protected China from the European powers who were going to carve it up like they did Africa, and we stopped that. The European powers were going to carve up China, and we were the ones who stopped it. So I don't know. I always felt there was this great affinity between us, and I wanted to see over my life how a hybrid of the different aspects of our traditions could create something even more glorious. But I feel like the most cynical people that I knew back, fellow students that I knew back decades ago, the ones who were always the most cynical about China and their intentions, I would have to say that it feels like their intentions have been, that their predictions have been confirmed. And those of us who engaged with China because we actually, wanted to do some good in the world and help China I think we all probably feel betrayed right now.
Yeah, Chinese Communist Party, they actually basically destroyed traditional Chinese culture. Okay, well, let me ask you about what President Trump said yesterday. He said in his statement that they're talking to different platforms. And they could also build their own platform to replace Twitter and Facebook and whatever. Do you know of any progress on that end?
No, I don't know. I mean, there's Gab, Parler, and Minds.com are the ones I know. They're all, they're smaller. But I could see him launching his own platform. He could do something like that, but I think he would be better off just taking one that's there and backing it. There's one called Locals. I'm going to be really interested in Locals.com. David Rubin.
Can you say that again? What's the website?
There's one starting up called Locals.com with a guy named David Rubin, who's become quite an intellectually respectable guy here. And So it's quite a scary time. I'm against there being any violence. See what's so frustrating for me. I saw a few solutions that would require no violence and little to no insult to the Constitution. One was have the National Guard rerun the election nationally in 30 days. That would have been the most muscular response because he would have had to, he could have, if we had started that in November, he could have had that answer by Christmas. We could have been a second election by Christmas. Have the National Guard run it. Okay, that was, and even theoretically he could do it today. It would take 30 days, so he would puncture the January 20 date, and that would be bad. That's a puncture in the Constitution. Abraham Lincoln did it once in time of war, but anyway, he could do that. A less muscular response is just having the National Guard go and count the actual paper ballots, which we have as a backup. These electronic systems got sold to the public on the condition that there's always a paper ballot record, and that we can just go and count those. That hasn't been done. It's been done in this very narrow, limited way. No, it really hasn't been done. So people say it was done in Georgia, but it wasn't really done in Georgia. It was this very limited thing.
Why do you think?
Then the least muscular response would be just to say, let's go count the ballots in these 6, or just have the election in these 6 states, or rerun the election in these 6 states, or let's just count the ballots in these 6 counties. They could have that done by Wednesday, and this whole answer is resolved without violence. But people don't want that. The people, the goon left, do not want this resolved without violence. They want it to be a bloody revolution. Once they have their hands on the DHS, the FBI, the CIA, the Justice, well, they already have their hands on the Justice Department, but they want it to become bloody so they can use those tools to wipe out, Americans who believe in the Constitution.
So what do you think people can do?
We're going to have to focus on organizing, fighting in the courts. We do have a good federal judiciary at this point. Maybe they will protect us, our rights. And if they hold out 2 years, and if they write some muscular responses in response to Sidney Powell's article filings, maybe they will mandate that certain things have to be done prior to the 2022 election.
I feel when I go to D.C. to report on these events, I feel there's a we the people kind of movement. It's getting stronger and stronger across the country. So do you feel the same way? Do you see it growing?
I do. It's very much a we the people movement. It transcends the Republican, Democrat. The Republicans look terrible to us. They look like traitors. That they've signed off. I think a bunch of them are compromised. So there's not much love for the Republican Party anymore, and I bet they'll lose. If we had a good We the People Party that did not want to go socialist, but wanted to be away from the Republicans, nothing to do with anything white identitarian, nothing like that, but a party that just stood for the core principles of America and just wanted to endorse those and get back to that. I think they'd have a great chance.
Yeah, I think people are probably also realize more and more the socialist and communist agenda or the ideology behind this thing, because they see to which direction this country is heading, right? Right.
And so, they act like they got it all this time, but they don't have the Supreme Court and they don't have the federal judiciary. So if they can be held up for 2 years, by the time there's an election in 2 years, we can gain a bunch of these seats back, flip Congress, maybe flip the Senate. But we can't do that unless the Supreme Court stops hiding under their bed sheets. They're like a little kid hiding under their sheets. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court should write some decisions in response to these cases that are in front of them and say, put down some decisions that lay some ground rules so this cannot happen again. And that would be interesting if they took the opportunity to do that.
Okay, so my last question, if you don't mind me asking, Patrick, is you've had a legendary career in business. You resigned, as the Overstock CEO last year, actually 2019. Now it's 2021. But lately, you have been quite outspoken in terms of election issue and domestic politics. Are you worried that it might bring some controversy to yourself?
Well, I'm used to controversy. I suspect that there will be a conversation between Uncle Sam and myself, and someday, and that they'll be very angry. Yeah, they may try some retaliation. I'm pretty angry at them too, and maybe we can all just. I kind of want to go and live a simple life on a farm at this point. I've been trying to help. I've been trying to, for 15 years. I've been familiar with I helped the government on Wall Street, and I learned what they were doing. And I've seen for those years all kinds of stuff that I realize now what I was seeing were the shadows of what we're living through in these weeks. Just corruption. I think that the Achilles heel of liberalism is corruption of the institutions. Our founding fathers knew that. Federalist Paper number 10, they wrote that. It's that corruption of the institutions. If you're going to have a country of institutions and not men, rule of law and not men, then you're going to have, you're only going to be as good as those institutions are without getting corrupted. And I think that probably the CCP realized, hey, that's our weak link. That's the U.S.'s weak link. We're going to go in there. And they've had 25 years to do influence peddling. And I think they have a lot of Washington, yeah, I think they have a lot of Washington suborned. And that's why a bunch of these senators and congressmen went along with this.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, especially with a lot of information revealed lately about that. But let's hope that CCP not defeat America, but actually the contrary, right? So let's not lose hope. And I think we want to defend the American Republic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get involved in local election, volunteering, ballot integrity. Everything is ballot integrity. The ways they have of cheating are much more sophisticated than what people were looking for. Everything's going to be about ballot integrity. Get involved. That's if we don't do that, the next time it's over. It is over. So we have to get it done. 2 years from now, there's an election, ballot integrity.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for taking your time to do this interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for watching Focus Talk. That was our interview with Mr. Patrick Byrne. We'll see you next time.